Just two adjacent girls living in a lovely world. They took a podcast train going anywhere, but kind of specifically through Austin, Texas. Yeah, hook 'em horns.
Hey y'all, it's Shelly here with Adjacent. Jody is teaching, and we wanted to do a special interview with our friend Kim Stockenbojer for autism awareness, talking about Pans and Pandas. She's going to share her experience living with Jake while he was dealing with Pans and Pandas. For those of you not familiar, on top of having autism, quite a few of our community members also deal with Pans and Pandas. Pans is a pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome. It's an autoimmune disorder, and it's usually associated with strep. And it is very, very intense. The causes is unknown. It's believed to be triggered by an immune response to an infection, such as strep throat. And so, on top of autism, these families are dealing with Pans and Pandas. The symptoms are obsessive compulsive disorder, tics, anxiety, depression, sudden changes in behavior, big, gigantic behaviors, a big change in academic engagement. Their motor coordination can start having problems. Definitely, a lot of people on the autism spectrum already struggle with sleep disturbances. And on top with the Pans and Pandas, they can start to hallucinate, very, very irritable. They have separation anxiety and just some big, gigantic behaviors. And we, being very close friends with the Stockenbojers, when Jake went through Pans and Pandas, we had a front row seat to the experience and the very traumatic experience that the entire Stockenbojer family went through during the Pans and Pandas triggers with Jake. And it was very heartbreaking to observe as a friend and seeing somebody just suffering so much and it's not just Jake that was suffering, the whole family was suffering because he was so irritable, and it became very isolating for them and Jake. And so very grateful that Kim is going to join me and talk about her experience with Pans and Pandas, and how she has dealt with it and all her knowledge on Pans and Pandas. She's a very fierce advocate for Jake and has gone above and beyond to help Jake become as independent as possible. And I think it's very important for families to know that Pans and Pandas exist, just like other autoimmune disorders, and be aware that when you start dealing with strep, especially with somebody with autism, you may not even know that they have strep because they have such a high tolerance for pain, and just being aware of all of the situations that unfold and how it affects the entire family, the entire community. And so just something additional to be mindful about. So without further ado, we're going to have Kim join us and learn more about Pans and Pandas.
Adjacent. Very near, next to, or touching. Our tailgate is adjacent to the left field fence. ADJACENT. Adjacent.
So we have Kim Stockenbojer here today, and I consider her the, in my world, the Pandas experts. whether you wanted to be the expert or not, that is how we see Kimmy, is like she knows so much about it. So can you tell us about your experience with Pans and Pandas?
Of course. Well, it's not an area that anybody would want to be an expert in, I can tell you. It's a very complicated disorder that I wish I really didn't know anything about, honestly. But
To be, I would, yeah, I wish you didn't know anything about it, Kimmy.
yeah. But anyway, so our story is a little bit different in the fact that we have autism and pandas or pans, both. And to kind of give you a little bit of backstory, Jake was pretty much diagnosed with autism at like 4 years old officially. We pretty much knew before then, but the official diagnosis was 4. And so we were dealing with pretty much autism life, the ups and downs, and was, you have your good days, bad days, good months, not so good months, things like that. But we started to see a shift in him right after middle school, really. And pretty much we kind of just attributed it to he was getting ready to go to high school. He was lots of stressors there, lots of changes, puberty, all of it.
Puberty. Yeah, big one.
Puberty. And so a couple of things, like he started like having trouble sleeping, a few minor things, but it just started upticking. And he started exhibiting bizarre behaviors that he had not shown before. Like he started like this sort of fight or flight where he looked like a scared animal. He would get somewhere and then he would try to run and hide like in a corner or under a table or run out of the room or wherever he was. He would just try to escape. And that had not been something I had ever seen him do. And I'd never seen that fear on his face like that, where he looked just really anxious. And then the sleeping became more where he literally didn't sleep for 2 or 3 days at a time and became psychosis. He went into psychosis. And so I called my psychiatrist and I said, because we had been kind of under the care of a psychiatrist, just managing autism life. And I called my psychiatrist and I said, look, there's something going on other than this. He's really out of sorts. And they basically told me to give him Benadryl. And that was the start of me looking for some answers that this is not normal. Something's going on. We found another psychiatrist that was more open to, just treating him. Because at that point, we could not get him out of the house. We could not. He was so anxious that we couldn't get him to the car even, and to get, which is in the garage, out of the house.
But it was also scary to get him out of the house for you. It was not. It wasn't safe to take him out of the house. And it wasn't safe to have him in the house.
Yeah, it really wasn't. I mean, it was the weirdest thing ever, but I knew that this was not right. I knew that this was not something, because he just literally was a sort of happy autistic boy. And now he was a very disgruntled, very unhappy, very unsafe. And he really started losing all of the skills that he had gained through school. I mean, he literally couldn't write. He couldn't, it was just heart-wrenching to watch. Well, I couldn't figure out what was going on. And he just started just really getting aggressive, which had not been a problem. So by chance, I talked to a friend, Tammy Garamoni. I'm going to say her name on here.
Yeah, let's do it.
That is for Tammy, a fellow Pans mom, because she asked me, have you ever heard of pandas? Well, I went online and I started researching it, and I started seeing, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what he has. So that was kind of the beginning of the nightmare, honestly, because going to find doctors that treat pandas and pans is very difficult. There's only about 5 good doctors in the U.S. that treat it well, meaning they have people that go into their clinic that are like Jake was, and that actually walk out cured. Yeah. And so I, of course, being the detective, and there's no way anybody could let their kid stay in that state. I mean, we were in and out of psychiatric hospitals. He couldn't go to school. When he did go to school, it was such a nightmare. He was run off from the school. He would be attacking the staff members, or I mean, it was just the most brutal experience. And I mean, you actually were at Bowie High School with me one day and saw firsthand kind of the ravage of this disorder.
Yeah, I was with you at Bowie and at the hospital, and then we were out one day, and I have never experienced anything like it. I've known Jake since he was 5, and how I've described it to people is like his pupils were bouncing. They were bouncing. He was out of his body. It was an out-of-body experience for him, and he had no control over it.
Right.
And, so on top of autism, which, we've had to fight along to get every answer that we have figured out. We've had to fight for every step of the way. And then you get the, double down with the Pans and Pandas. And it's just like, what the hell is happening?
No kidding. No kidding. And then the really hard part about this versus any other disorders is that half of the population or more, including doctors, don't believe it's a real thing. And so it's very difficult to find treatment, and it's very expensive because, there are things that are just not covered by insurance, some more severe. And we did a round of IVIG, but there are some kids I know living right in my neighborhood that have to have IVIG every month. And we paid, it was like $16,000 for one treatment. And so it's just it's a hard thing to navigate. And I think because it's autoimmune, anything autoimmune is so complicated because everybody's different and everything doesn't always present the same way. But in our case, there were some telltale signs, and I pretty much knew, even though I had doctors telling me, oh no, I knew. And so I kept going to that road, and I went to New York to Columbia University, went to a conference where all the top Pans doctors were presenting. And I mean, I'm like, I'm going to go to the horse's mouth to find out.
That's right.
And so we have been on a journey of healing. Pans can be triggered by Lyme. So we have gone down the Lyme hole, and
the Lyme hole,
which don't even get me started on Lyme, because that's another thing. But I need to know things. And so we did all the testing. I need to know what we're looking at, what we're dealing with. And really, in order to get these kids better, the only way you can do it is to get to the root of the problem. And otherwise, just giving him psychiatric meds and things like that, if they worked, it would just give us a temporary relief, which they did not work. But so we actually did a couple of different treatments that I felt were effective. The homeopathy route. I know that the weird thing is I honestly am not even a believer in a lot of the newer, or I guess it's more of a Eastern medicine, or I don't believe a lot of stuff. So I have to really see. I have to meet.
Seeing is believing. Yeah.
Seeing is believing. And I just need to see the numbers. I mean, I need to see if this has made you better. I need to see how, where, what, So anyway, we did homeopathy. I felt like he healed a whole lot during that. Whether or not he would have just resolved it on his own, I don't know, really. I really don't know. But I did see improvement with homeopathy. Yep. And right now we're on a maintenance, I would call it. So in 2019, Governor Abbott created the Texas Pans Advisory Council. And thank God that someone or some higher ups are actually bringing light to this and maybe hopefully creating resources for parents, and for the families. But he created that council and actually made a Pandas Pans Awareness Day in Texas, and which is very helpful. And I see states there's probably about 12 states now that are requiring insurance to pay for IVIG.
Oh, yes, I've read that. I've read it. That's finally coming down the pipe. Yes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, with Lyme, IVIG is not really a good option for us. It doesn't, which actually I'm kind of glad, because that's that's an outrageous, and it's a huge commitment. It's like a 2-day treatment. And if you have to get it once a month, that's 2 days where, you're getting an IV. But yeah, I would really like to just see more awareness when kids are sick in the beginning of this, because if you can catch it early intervention and early treatments are huge. I've seen some kids that have actually completely turned around, completely, like they never even had it. Now, since it's autoimmune, I don't think it ever goes away. It's always there. But they're able to go on and live a semi-normal life, and that's really where we want to get.
Exactly. You want to catch it early. And I think you had the double whammy, Kimmy, because a lot of people with autism, when they have strep or they have an infection, there's no symptoms. We don't know. I mean, they don't have a fever. They're not running a fever. They're not tired or whatever. So we're not seeing the same reaction to infections with a lot of our kids with autism. Now that Jake has had Pandas, he does have external flags whenever he's, having a reaction. He gets those big blisters and stuff like that. It's just, you don't know where it's rooted, if it's because he loves to pick and things. So as a mom, we look at these situations and we're doing the best that we can, and we're like, he's not running a fever, he's not doing that basic stuff that you would assume that something was underlying. And so it's so admirable that you just kept digging and digging, and thank God for Tammy saying, setting you on the path.
Right, because I had never heard of that disorder.
No,
I had never.
None of us had.
It's not like she said, have you checked for mono or something that you've heard of? I had never even heard of such a thing. And then since I've heard of it, Shelly, I'm not sure that there's not a whole lot of other kids that actually have this, and adults. I think a lot of parents, because you can pass it to your kids. A lot of parents are also they're seeing that their kids are going through this, and they're also treating themselves because they're also going through it. Now they've kind of learned to live with some of the symptoms, but some of them are just, the anxiety piece for Jake, I think, is the biggest one. Yeah. And as long as we can keep him feeling safe and infection-free as much as possible, he's fairly okay. He's a fairly normal autistic person. But when he becomes inflamed, or when his body triggers by a response, his whole demeanor changes. His whole, it's almost like he's multiple personality disorder.
Yeah.
And he knows it too. And so he's like, why do I do that? And when am I going to stop doing that? He's exhibited some extremely dangerous behaviors.
Very dangerous. It's been very hard. As your friend, it's been hard to watch.
Oh, completely. I completely understand that. Yeah, I mean, probably the first 3 years when he started jumping out of cars and running off. And at one point we had a search party looking for him with a helicopter over Circle C. And I tell you, you really start preparing yourself that your son is going to die. That's how dire it feels. It feels like someone is going to kill him, but not intentionally, but because he's so ravaged and cannot. And I'm telling you, I drove up one day where the police were chasing after him, and he ran out into the median on Mopac. And I pulled up, and it was muddy and wet, and they had him on the ground and had him handcuffed. And I'm telling you, Shelly, it is the most gut-wrenching thing to see and especially your sweet baby that has no idea what even is going on.
Yeah.
He's like crying for me, and I'm just like, this is not right. This is, this kid is sick, and I have to figure it out or he's going to be dead.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's what drives you. And I don't think there's a mother alive that wouldn't do exactly everything, because you just can't watch your kids like that day after day without, doing something about it. And I think that's where the Pandas Parents Network, it's called Pandas Parents on Facebook, was huge for me. I learned everything I needed to know from parents.
Yeah, agreed. And it's sad that we're in this state, and I'm glad we're talking about it and sharing it. So hopefully other people don't have to, they can nip it early on and do some preventative things. But I want to talk about the resources a little bit, Kimmy, because there's not really a safe place. There was not really ever a safe place for Jake during this process.
Exactly.
The mental hospital programs are not equipped for autism plus PANS. The medical hospitals were not prepared for autism plus PANS.
Right.
And y'all jumped through so many hoops. The schools were not prepared for PANS and autism.
Right.
And
right.
So
and
then it fell on you. It fell on you at home, and you were put into very violent situations, and mind-blowing.
Right. Yeah, it really was probably about at least 2 years where I literally was a prisoner in my house. I mean, I literally had to keep him locked in. All windows were, butterfly locked with pliers where you couldn't open them, because he literally jumped out of the second story window at one point. And so we locked everything down. And, unfortunately, it's just the way it is. But somebody has to work to pay for all of this stuff. And
Exactly. I agree.
So, and then there was just left with me, and it is just a lot. One person really cannot do this.
No, not at all.
One person cannot do it. And luckily, I have a village of you and people that did come in and help me. I don't know what I would have done without Liz Alma. I mean, he was there with me every step, every tier, every, psychiatric hospital. And, but when you're taking your child who's sick and you're putting them someplace that that they're not going to get any help, and they actually could be harming them.
Exactly.
But you don't know what else to do. So one of the things that the council with the Pandas Pans advisory council state, they are trying to fund and get a place built specifically for these types of people. They know that, because I'm not the only one, there's lots and lots of people, lots of families going through exactly this thing, and even worse. And so a child that is safe, that, you can get a break or get some, because sometimes these episodes are sort of cyclical and they'll come and go. And, you just need to kind of wait it out a little bit, kind of get them more into a stable place. And there just is no place. And when I say no place, I don't mean no place in Austin or Texas, there's no place anywhere. There's a few specialty hospitals like Kruger Center, Krieger, whatever it is, Cleveland Hospital. There's a few that I know of, but those are more into where you would go and leave them for a couple of months for serious like OCD treatment or whatnot. But we've got to try to figure out a way to get a place here somewhere in Central Texas.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. And it's mind blowing. As you know, with all autoimmune disorders, anxiety and stress inflame the situation. And so you
Yes.
put somebody into a psychiatric hospital and their stress, is inflaming the autoimmune disorder. And the dynamics of family can cause stress and anxiety, and going to school can cause stress and anxiety, so there's just not a safe space to deal with an autoimmune, a stress-free environment.
Right.
And so it's such a hard thing to navigate. It's like
Yes.
it's the it's the perfect storm.
Yeah, it really is a perfect storm. And it's a perfect storm that just never seems to kind of go away. It's just like, and I'm hoping that I do hear good things, that as they kind of age up, some things do resolve and get better. And plus, too, with, making changes and building up his immune system and all of the things that we're doing to try to do that, the physical activity. I do want to say to any parent going through this, is one of the hardest things ever that I had to go through was realizing that I could not help my son. I could not do it. I tried everything I could, and I literally had to reach out and put him someplace that could help him.
And I think that's a hard decision for a parent, but I think it's the bravest thing.
It is gut-wrenching. It is the hardest thing to reach out and get your kid help when you just want to just hold them and really just keep them safe in your own house. I mean, I would have loved to just be able to do that, but I knew he wasn't going to get better, and he was going to wind up hurting somebody, hurting himself. And, I just don't think that that's going to, that's not going to be good for him.
Yeah. And so we have a bit of a positive story. Is like Jake went through all of this, and then he went and stayed at a residential program up at Daymark and had a couple of good months there, and then had a flare and had an incident, and came back home, and had a lot of stress when he was home, and now he's he's living his best life. He's having so much fun.
He really is. I mean, that's the only thing that keeps me going every day, is knowing, because I miss him because he's 3 hours away, but he is happy and he's with people that are really equipped to live with them and to work with them, and they enjoy him, and he has really settled in nicely there. I'm hoping that it continues, of course, but I think that just, I don't know, maybe it's doing all the things are finally kind of starting to pay off a little bit. But
all your hard work,
oh man, I'll tell you. And I really am thinking about maybe writing a book or something.
Yeah, you should.
It's not even a book, or maybe even like a piece. Because I feel like there's so many. I get calls because I'm also on the parent to parent list for any parents that are going through Pandas and Pans to call, and I've gotten a number of calls, and boy, I've been there. I made the calls. I know what they're feeling on that end of the phone, and it's just a devastating thing to experience. But I'm hopeful. I'm really hopeful, because finally I'm seeing a lot of people talking about it. A lot of doctors are talking about it now. Dell Children's is still not talking about it, but there's other hospitals that are treating it and aren't telling parents that they're crazy and they have Munchausen or whatever. But I have a ton of resources, so I would definitely encourage, if anybody thinks that look up if you have a thought or an idea that your child might be dealing with something like this, look up the symptoms and because I'll tell you, nobody's going to come and save you. I found that out.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's gonna, come to you and say, "Hey, this is what's going on." Kimmy, like if somebody and I mentioned, the symptoms is like, and I'm gonna speak about Jake. Is it truly felt like he was having an out of body experience? And like he was hallucinating, like psychosis. It felt like psychosis, and it wasn't anything Jake, you know, anything like Jake was prior. And
Right.
and so if you're seeing that symptom in your child, what would you recommend to a new family today? What would you recommend that they dig into?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. You know your child, and
Yeah.
you know that this is not right. And if the signs and symptoms are there, and one of the things too that I want to say is because ours started with strep, Jake had 0 symptoms of strep. I mean, he didn't have a sore throat, he didn't have a fever, and when they went and did a throat swab, it was negative. You know how we knew? They sent it off for culture and it came back that it was strep. So they knew that he had strep looming. And once we went and had more testing done, we had blood work, we had titers checked. Then the puzzle pieces started falling together. His titers were through the roof, which meant he had active strep in his body. And strep can be anywhere, not just in your throat. Well, strep can be in your gut. It can be in your perianal, in your privates. It can be anywhere.
Yeah.
So, well, not anywhere, but it can be other places than just
Yeah.
So definitely I say do the blood work because that
Yeah.
tells everything. But
Yeah.
if you notice a difference in your child, the biggest thing in the beginning too was the separation anxiety. He
Yeah.
did not want to be away from me, and it had to be me. It couldn't be dad. It couldn't be anybody else.
Yeah.
And it literally, he did not want me to leave the room. He did not want to sleep in his own bed. I mean, there were really, really telltale signs that this is something wrong.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
And I think that is very like animalistic. Is like an animal that is struggling goes and finds their mom.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what is happening is like, I'm not okay. I need you to be near me because you're going to be the first one to know.
Right. Yeah. And you're my safe place. You're my
Yeah.
safe space to go. And
Yeah.
So just pay attention to any kind of changes in school. They start losing some of their reading, writing, math skills, things that he would do pretty well. He suddenly couldn't do them anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of it's a puzzle. It feels like a puzzle, like you're constantly
for sure
trying to find the pieces and put the pieces together, and you really are doing it on your own. Luckily, there's so many resources online. There's Pandas Pans network. There's lots and lots and lots of information.
Can we talk about the caregiver? So can we talk about you and what has happened on your side dealing with all this? How has this affected it? Anxiety, sleep, your marriage, what?
Oh yeah. Oh, it pretty much has destroyed everything in my life. Not destroyed permanently, but temporarily destroyed it. I'm working back a lot of things, but it is like a lot of crisis in families. Families are dealing with addiction and death and a lot of issues, and it is one of those very difficult things to deal with. I have PTSD. Jake, okay, so he would never like attack me, but if he was in a rage, there would be collateral damage. I could easily get. He never wanted to hurt me, but he would be in a rage, and I very easily and I did get bitten a few times.
Yeah.
And so, and my fear comes from not fear of being hurt. I'm not afraid of Jake. I'm not afraid he's going to hurt me. What I am afraid of is he's going to hurt himself,
Yeah.
or potentially hurt someone else. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
worry so much, but I worry about him, harming himself, getting himself into trouble because his impulse control is not great. And so, yeah,
And so we throw ourselves in between that as parents. We you see them doing something dangerous, and instinctively we throw ourselves in between, or try to calm, or use sama or whatever to help them regulate, and the collateral damage happens. And so that happens with autism, and then you add Pans and Pandas, and it is a flare, and it's just a lot to deal with, and it's traumatizing for the whole family.
Oh, it is complete. I mean, even the dog and cat are traumatized. Okay, I mean, the whole family is traumatized. But the beautiful thing about it is we're human beings and we're resilient, and luckily we can go through things and we can come out the other side. And the main thing is that my son is better, and that I have answers, and I know that I can get him help when needed. It's going to be an ongoing thing, but I know that at least I know what we're looking at, what we're dealing with.
Exactly. And I want to speak to this, and then I'll let you go, Kimmy. I appreciate your time. Is that we, as supporting somebody with autism, you set up housing situations, and you hope, yay, this is gonna stick. This is awesome, and then it falls apart, and then that ebb and flow is like there's never. And I don't know if anybody ever experiences this as parents, but it may not just be autism, but there's never like, oh, they're fine. We're good. I can exhale now and live my life. It's always living on, am I gonna get a phone call today? Are we gonna make that? And are we gonna finish out this month? And so you're always looking for the next option, if you will, and preparedness to they may be coming home.
Right.
And so I know you look with that, and
yeah, and I've talked about this with my therapist, and because I need a lot of therapy going through all this. I think it's the only thing that's kind of kept me sane.
Thank you, Kathy Morgan. We love you.
Yes, definitely. But I know that I cannot live with Jake. I love him. I will give my life for him. And of course, if I have zero other choices, I'm going to have to live with him. But I have realized that he and I we don't live well together. He wants to be he wants independence.
Yeah, he wants the autonomy.
And he triggers me when he just, being around him, because he's been such an anomaly. But then I'm around him and he is so much fun, and we have the best time, and we're laughing, and he's so happy. And so I have to just look forward to those times, and just get through the other yucky times as best I can.
It's just a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to navigate. And you said he triggers you. We trigger our boys too. We it's just like it's part of, they want the autonomy, but they come back into the house and they're a kid again, and it's like, well, nobody manages this when you're not around, so leave me alone, lady. And so it's just ongoing, and navigating it is so hard, and I feel like it has aged the hell out of us.
I feel like I aged 100 years just in those like 5 years that I really was in the thick of it. I mean, I was like, you and I, we would look at some of the older moms going through some of the autism and think, oh my God, they look so tired and worn down. And you and I were like, we're not going to be that.
Yeah, we're not going to do that. We don't want to do it. And now here we are.
Hey, we're still kicking.
We're still kicking. We're still trying.
We're still doing okay. As long as I have breath in me, I will fight for Jake. I will do everything I can. But I'm also at a point where I would like to have a little bit of my own life.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound selfish about that.
No.
It's been really hard for me because I do feel selfish taking time for myself. But I'm at the point where I feel like I've kind of earned it. It's time.
Agreed. I agree 100%. I've been listening to one of our friends has a podcast, Mike Thompson, and he is really pushing, and I'm obsessed with it now, is unapologetic self-care. Unapologetic self-care. And I think as moms, we have a tendency to put ourselves on the back and deal with our stuff later. And I think it's our time, and we need to, for preservation for our kids, it's like take care of ourselves. So unapologetic self-care, Kimmy, do it.
Yeah. Well, you've taught me so much about that, is just the sense that you still have to go on and have a life somehow through all of this. And if I didn't, I don't think I would even have been able to survive this, because it was just so bad that not having any, I've got to have some good in there. And, luckily my friends and my troops, my tribe of Pans and Pandas moms really helped me through that. But yeah, I'm so happy I have you.
I love you. I love you so much.
Oh my God, life without you would be so boring.
I doubt that.
It would be so I would be so bored over here if I didn't have you. Oh my God. I would. I'd be bored. I'd be like, what am I going to do today?
You'd be knitting an axe.
I would be. I'd be effed up like a soup sandwich.
That's hilarious. I'm trying to think of Emily's saying is like, she's crazy as a rat in a shit house. Well, I love you so much. Thanks for sharing this.
I love you too. And please, I'm going to put a little blurb on your page about to contact me if anybody has any questions or whatnot. I'm happy. I'm an open book.
She is an open book and a great resource for everything. And she's fun and she's hot. And so we're going to do Single Ready to Mingle with her now. Just joking.
I would love to. Are you kidding me? That'd be so fun.
We're going to invite Egon on when he's done with taxes and act like we're doing Single Ready to Mingle with him.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear what he would say. He'd say, oh my God.
I love you.
I love you.
Thanks so much. Have a good one.
Texas.
Yeehaw!